Hello, my name is Deb and you're welcome to Discover with Deb. The news that has been making rounds on social media and everywhere around is that the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria has reopened the verification portal for nurses who want to verify their certificate and registration in order to either study abroad or work abroad, to go ahead to do that and achieve their dreams or pursue their dreams. But the question is this a good news or not? Anyway, we are going to be dissecting this in this video. Last year, December 2023, the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria shut down their verification portal on the internet, making it impossible for nurses who wanted to verify their registration and license to continue with that process. They made series of changes, and then in March 2024, they reopened the portal and insisted on continuing with their new verification policy. Nurses were unhappy with this. Many nurses started protesting. The Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria was sued, taken to court, and all of these many other things were going on. And then the Nursing and Midwifery Council, after a few days, shut down the verification portal again. I wanted to come up here to say something about this. When nurses were protesting and protesting and protesting, I wanted to give my own point of view, but I was like, okay, everybody is saying the opposite of what I am saying or what I am thinking about. If I come out here to say what I want to say, I might get some backlash. People will talk to me the way I don't want or I wouldn't appreciate. So I decided to keep quiet and watch this play out, and let's see the end of all these, and then I can now come out to say something based on what my own views are, and here I am to do that. When nurses were protesting and taking the NMCN to court, a lot of thoughts flashed through my mind, and I remembered a lot of things. One of which was, when we were in nursing school, the nursing board and the management of the nursing school decided to come up with some policies, regulations, change a lot of things in their favor and against the nurses, against the student nurses. We were all angry, disheartened by the decision, and we decided to exercise our human rights. We protested, we went to the government, we did a lot of things, we petitioned the management, petitioned the board of nursing. We did a lot of things to change that policy in our favor. But what happened at the end? It may surprise you to know that all our efforts were just thrown into the bin like a waste bin. Nothing was done about it. Instead, what they did was to ask all the nurses to come to school with their parents to sign an undertaking stating that we will never engage in such protests or try to challenge the decision of the nursing management or the nursing board. That was how all of this ended, and failure to bring your parents to take that, to sign that undertaking, will result in so many other things. It all ended in the favor of the nursing management. When there was NSAS protests in Nigeria, what happened? Did anything work or end in the favor of the masses? Recently, people protested against increase in price, people being unable to meet up with the cost of living. What happened? In the end, the government in the end decided to, instead of alleviate the people's suffering, instead impose more taxation on the people to increase income. Income for who? Who is benefiting from this income? Okay, let's talk about the election. We saw it pop and plain in the broad daylight how the people's mandate was stolen and given to someone else. We protested and protested. What happened in the end? Nothing. So I've come to realize that our system in Nigeria is not a system for the people. It's a system for those in power, those in place of authority. Whatever they decide to do, how they decide to do it, that is how it ends up. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't fight for our right. That doesn't mean we should protest. But it's just that it is so unfortunate that the Nigerian governmental system or leadership system does not respect the rights of the people. The question is, how can we make them begin to respect the rights of the people. That is something we really need to sit and think and think about and come up with something that would really make them to respect the rights of the people. Okay, let's come back to the Nursing and Midwifery Council verification. So the Nursing and Midwifery Council reopened the verification portal. Nurses have been protesting. This verification portal has been shut for months. People have suffered. I heard about hundreds of nurses in Saudi Arabia, Nigerian nurses, who were asked to return back to their home country because Saudi Arabia couldn't get verification from the Nursing and Midwifery Council. So many nurses who wanted to further their studies, travel abroad. In fact, some of them are already abroad looking for a way to get into practicing as registered nurses in the country. But because the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria has shut their verification portal, they have been stagnated and not been able to achieve this dream. So after all these months of fighting and suing the NMCN and waiting and people suffering, dreams being put on hold, the Nursing and Midwifery Council reopened the verification portal without listening to the plea or giving heed to the concern of the Nigerian nurses. One of the reasons why nurses were protesting was because the Nursing and Midwifery Council said that they were going to be asking nurses to provide certificate of good standing from the last nursing institution they attended, and also good standing certificate from their current employer. And nurses stood against it because we all know not every employer would be happy to see their nurse that they've employed that is working and slaving for them and they are being underpaid. They know they are making money from this well-skilled, well-educated nurse. Not every employer will be happy to see that this nurse wants to leave them and want to travel abroad. So that's why many nurses do or carry out all of these and complete their processes in secret without telling their employer. The nurses were saying, even the House of Reps and the NAM were saying that these policies can result in nurses being exploited, being enslaved, and all these kind of things. If you have a male boss who has been asking you for something and you've been saying no, this alone can make them to say, okay, if you want this from me, you have to heed to my request. All these kind of things. We are requesting the Nursing and Midwifery Council to provide verification to a foreign body to say that the license and the registration that they gave to us is valid. I just wonder why the Nursing and Midwifery Council is still requesting that we provide certificate of good standing from the last nursing institution we attended and from our employer. Of what use is certificate of good standing from your employer to the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria? Of what use is certificate of good standing or of importance to the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria? I don't just know how. I don't know how they came up with this idea. I don't just know how. And this will also result in nurses spending more money, because if you're going to your school to ask your school, it's just going to be an email, or they are just going to be sending an email, replying an email to the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. So for them to type that email, they might ask you to pay a whopping sum of 50,000, 15,000, 10,000, depend on the school and depend on their level of greed. If their greed level is not very high, they might charge less. If their greed level is at the highest, then you can imagine what to expect. Then talk about bosses that don't want their nurses to travel. They might also ask the nurses to pay some money, which will cause an increase. Maybe a nurse is supposed to spend just a little amount of money for verification, will find themselves spending so much money that they do not have for verification. The only thing I do not know if the Nursing and Midwifery Council heeded to is that when they rolled out this policy, they said that they will be issuing verification only to nurses who have practiced for 2 years after their license has been issued. I personally applied for verification as soon as the portal opened, so I'm giving you a first-hand information. You still have to provide employer details or employer email. Nursing and Midwifery Council will send an email to the employer to verify or issue a certificate or reply the email to say you're a good nurse. Your last school of nursing studies will also need to provide their details, email address. They will also need to respond to the nursing council to say that you're of good behavior. What I do not know is if the Nursing Administration Council still insists that nurses who have not practiced for up to 2 years post qualification will not be eligible for verification. That is what I do not know, because their site does not give any information about that. But after you have applied for this verification, your verification will be pending, and the Nursing Administration Council will not make a decision whether to accept your application or reject your application. So right now that the portal has been opened, as nurses begin to apply for verification, I believe both nurses that are newly qualified nurses that have practiced for several years will also apply for verification, and then we'll get to know if Nursing Administration Council erased this other requirement from their new verification policy, or they still held on to that. But as soon as I get any information about that, I'm going to let all our new nurses know about that. My simple advice is that if Nursing Administration Council do not abolish this 2-year post-qualification experience, my simple advice is that most of these employers abroad, their minimum requirement post-qualification for a nurse, minimum experience requirement is 1 year. If you want to practice in the United Arab Emirates, that is in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, they will require a minimum of 1 or 2 years post-qualification experience as a registered nurse. If you want to practice in the US, most employers will require a minimum of 1 year post-qualification experience as a registered nurse. In the UK, before now, they used to accept even newly qualified nurses, but now even nurses who have 9 years, 8 years of experience are even finding it difficult to get a job in the United Kingdom. Australia, the same thing. Many other countries, they wouldn't just want a nurse who studied outside their country to just finish graduation and jump into their nation and start working. No, they want you to get an experience. It makes it easier for them to train you to fit quickly into their own system because you already have an experience as a nurse. So let's say they require 1 year minimum experience, 1 year minimum post-qualification experience. So 1 year is out of the Nursing Administration Council 2 years requirement. Then you have 1 more year. That 1 more year, you can use it to study, to prepare for any examination. Those that might need to sit for IELTS, those that might need to sit for any examination before they get licensed to practice in these countries. You can just go ahead to prepare for those examinations so that by the time you've gotten that 2 year post-qualification experience and you're applying for verification and you get verified, you sit for that examination, is going to be a one-off and you're going to pass it. The only challenge I'm going to be having is those that want to further their studies and they need their license and registration verified. That means if you want to study abroad and your license and verification needs to be verified, then you might have to wait for 2 years post-qualification to get that verification done. However, you can use that 2 years to also gather some money, more money, to further your studies. That is just my own way of giving hope to people that might be feeling heartbroken about this new verification policy. And also, if you think you cannot wait for 2 years post-qualification, then you might consider studying abroad, getting your first nursing degree internationally instead of having it first in Nigeria and then going abroad to further your studies. You can consider just going international and then getting your first nursing qualification if that suits you best and if you can afford it. So it's just so sad that after all of this, after all these months of waiting and protesting and spending money to sue the NMCN, nothing came out in the favor of the nurses. Nothing happened in the favor of the nurses. It's such a shame. But anyway, let's find hope and find other ways to achieve our dreams, not allowing the new verification policy of the Nursing Administration Council to put us down or deter us from achieving our dreams in life. Thank you so much for watching. That is it from me to you today. My name is Deb and this is Discover with Deb. Please share this video to as many you think might benefit from it. And until I see you next time, do take good care of yourself and have the best day ever. Thank you and bye.